To Talking Crit Live. I am half of your host, Eric Tenkar, your bartender in the OSR, and from an undisclosed location in the Dallas Fort Worth general vicinity, from his cell phone, is none other than Bad Mike Battleato.
We had an issue. Well, I tried to sign in for the computer, and it was just rolling along as slow as you can get. So we adapted. We adapted, and I said, I've got a phone, I got an iPad, so I'm on my phone.
Tired of feeling self-conscious about
Whoa.
your teeth due to discoloration or stain?
Yes, I am.
Okay, there. I'm tired of it too. What can I tell you?
Okay. YouTube's okay. It's the little circle spinning a lot. So the hotel I'm staying at, I have a feeling that everybody gets on the internet at night here, and it just slows it down to. Oh dear, it looks terrible on YouTube. Is that what I look like? Oh dear.
Well, no, you got your Robert Howard Museum shirt on. You look fine.
Yeah.
I've got my ShireCon 2019 shirt. I believe it's 2019. Oh yeah, 2019. Look at that.
It looks like where the image looks terrible on YouTube. Oh, nice. What is wrong? What is going on YouTube?
Well, that's because you've got that narrow image there.
Yeah, I think everything's just slow here. I think that where I'm at's just slow.
God.
Oh, this is terrible. All right, we can do it though. We can fight through it.
You can do.
We can do it.
it.
Fight through it.
We can overcome.
We shall overcome. Yes.
Oh yes. This is like a civil rights protest going on right here, right now. No, we had no control over a Maker's Mark commercial on the intro.
This is our Sinead O'Connor Memorial Show. So.
Oh shit, that's right. I just told Rachel that.
Actually, I want to bring up one thing. Doug's birthday was yesterday. He would have been 60 years old. So we'll dedicate this show to Doug Ray because he would have been 60 years old yesterday. So
God bless.
Sucks. Yeah, sucks.
Holy shit. I don't need to get all verklempt and belch on my viewers. Oh, there is a Maker's Mark, ready to go.
It made an appearance. That's why we're getting targeted. You're getting targeted advertising. I talk about that booze too much.
They're like, oh, it's a Wednesday night on Tavern, Chat.
We must podcast Maker's Mark commercials.
Yes, make sure they see the Maker's Mark. Ooh. But only the best for you. Steve Mitnick died this week too. What does that name sound familiar?
I don't know. So
Kevin.
So we don't have a special guest tonight. Anything exciting happened this week or interesting?
Anything exciting happened this week? I'm gonna struggle on this one. Oh wait, there was what do they call it? A 341 hearing. There was a hearing in bankruptcy court.
Oh.
For an LLC.
Those are public, and
well, when you are a potential creditor, they're very public.
Yes.
And me and my mother, because you would always attach a woman who has nothing to do with a live stream to a civil case because of reasons I have have suspicions, but
because I have my suspicions too that Dum Dum didn't know your wife's name.
He always says Rachel, but that's got to be made up. It can't be Rachel. It's got to be Lois. Yeah, Lois. Well, she's that woman's 79 years old at the moment of the filing. He likes them old. What can I tell you?
I heard the trustees say the D word at the end of the hearing. Okay, I give up. What's the D word? Which D word? Which D word?
And all right, it wasn't
delightful.
Dicks, dams, dikes, any of that stuff. It was depositions. Now, my understanding is that the vast majority of bankruptcies are pretty much Excuse me, Mr. Smith. Do you have a pulse? Yes, I do. How much debt do you have? 200,000. And how much do you have in assets? The clothes I'm wearing, my car, and $400 in the bank. Well, you're pretty much fucked. I guess, yeah, you're gonna go bankrupt. I guess we'll just move along. Good luck, sir, and have a pleasant day. And
Can,
there,
can I pull, can I
yeah,
pull
go
back a second? So I had a bankruptcy in my existence on Earth. Pretty much that's exactly what happened. So if you, it depends on who you owe money to. If you only owe money to credit cards, they rubber stamp your ass through there because they fucking hate, everybody hates fucking credit card companies. And so you really only get any kind of scrutiny if you owe individuals or small businesses. If you owe megacorps or credit cards, you get passed right on through the line. So when you go to bankruptcy, it's open. The door's open in the room in the wherever the city, wherever you can walk in. Anybody can listen. And so I got to listen to about 50 bankruptcies that day, and I've did it before that too. There was never a trustee or a deposition in any case because, as you said, Eric, they rubber stamp these things.
right.
They know that people have problems, and we're in a recession. I mean, we've been in a recession now 20 years, pretty much, where things just go bad. About 20 something years ago is when I had to things went bad, and they you can pretty much skate through as long as you present. Here's my assets. I don't know. I have a car. I have a house. I have $300 in the bank. I
Oh,
don't know.
your phone just slipped, Mike.
Time, at the time, I owned a few boxes of comic books and some games, which you write down everything you own. So I wrote down all the contents of my storage facility, which wasn't a lot back then. And you get to ask a couple questions, and you get rubber stamped on through. The only out of the 100 or so bankruptcies I heard, the only person that was asked even more than cursory questions was a lady who, which I thought was kind of fishy too. She had a bakery and apparently it was going bad, so she took out a loan and then she lost all that money too. And so the guy just wanted to know, well, if your bakery's doing bad, why is somebody giving you $100,000 and then you lose that too? That sounds like that's a really bad business. And her explanation was her employees were stealing from her, yada yada. She whatever, and he still rubber stamped through. He just
right.
thought that sounded weird. I thought it sounded weird because I'm like, damn, that's not a good. That sounds like a really bad business. Anyway, but the point is, these are the fact that you get a trustee or a depositions is very unusual, and the vast majority of bankruptcy cases, this never happens. You're pretty much rubber stamped through. They, depending on who you owned, who you owe, you're just, they don't care if credit card companies lose money. They don't care. They don't
Right.
get. I mean, my lawyer. I remember she was telling me, oh, she said they effing hate credit card companies, and all you owe is credit card debt. Because I did. That's all I owe is credit card debt. And so she goes, oh yeah, you're going to be rubber stamped through, and she was right. Because they don't. Credit card companies, you owe money to them, they don't care. Because credit card companies are predatory. They make it so you really can never pay off your loan if you're running into problems. They won't work with you until you declare bankruptcy. And at that point, they call you up and want to work out things with you, but you don't have to work out things with them anymore. Because
Oops, too late.
you're telling them, look, I owe you $20,000. I'll give you 10 because in 2 weeks, I'm going to declare bankruptcy and you're going to get nothing. Nope, we won't take that deal. Okay. Ring, ring. 3 weeks later. Hey, we'll take $5,000 on that. Why would I give you anything? I don't have to give you anything now. I just declare bankruptcy. Go screw yourself.
You lose.
And so that's what they do. It's just stupid. They're idiots. But yes, you get rubber stamped through and you get skated through. As long as Don says, as long as you're honest about your assets and you're not hiding anything, which it's pretty, they tell you, the lawyer tells you, look, don't do this 6 months before the trial. Don't do this 8 months before. I mean, they give it all, they lay it all out for you. Don't do these things. And as long as you don't do those things, you're fine. And so the fact that this credit card, I'm sure you know who the credit card was the difference in the hearing. He can actually say, yes, Because that's why when you go into a bankruptcy hearing, you should have all your ducks in a row. You need to be able to tell them everything, and you go over it with your lawyer. The lawyer says, "Okay, when they ask you this, tell you that, tell them this." When you ask, I mean, they don't throw you any like spitters or curveballs or fastballs. They just lay them out. They don't try to screw with you, unless of course in a case where they suspect that you're hiding assets and you're
Right.
in that case, they may try to throw you a few curveballs. And I understand this bankruptcy's here to talk about there was some curveballs.
There were a few curveballs. Well, listen, one of the first curveballs that I noticed, because it was a 9:30 meeting, and it was like, I don't know, 16, 17 people initially in the Zoom call. And they're like, we're going to have to move expeditiously. And I didn't realize that how many others beyond TSR were going to be in this room. And there were 4 or 5 others that took the first hour of the call. It was quick, mostly. And at one point, there were 2 trustees in the room. One trustee was initially getting the ball rolling, and then that trustee happened to be the lawyer of a woman who was actually filing for bankruptcy. So the other trustee became like, now it's my job to be the trustee as you're now playing lawyer role. And that second trustee wound up being the trustee for the TSR case. And where it took 4 or 5 of the initial bankruptcies about an hour, it took 90 minutes for the TSR case.
Oh boy, that's not good because another fun fact: you should be in and out of there in 10 minutes. I'm serious, 10, 15 minutes. You need to be in and out. You're in and out. So yeah, if you're spending an hour and a half in there, things have gone horribly wrong, because there's no way you should have that many questions to be answered.
Yeah, I mean there were what I was surprised by is that TSR's lawyer, the first uh, the first individual we got to see handling cases, I was surprised that he didn't have answers. Usually, if your client doesn't have the answer, you go through a pile of paperwork, and it's like, oh, Mr. Trustee, my client, their paperwork is here in front of me, and the answer is X, Y, Z, and I'll make sure you get a copy, as opposed to, um, yeah, listen, yeah, I'll get all that stuff to you. Could you give me a list of that? Why don't you just send me an email of everything that you need from this hearing?
Have that information at the bankruptcy trial, you moron.
So it seemed to me, and again, I was only an observer at this point. It seemed to me like TSR's attorney wasn't prepared for the hearing. It seemed to me like maybe he was surprised by the amount of
Well,
questions that were going on.
when you scrape the bottom of the barrel for your attorney, and I always tell people, and this is words to live by, kids. If you look, just spend the money, and if you have to go into debt for the attorney, get a good attorney. And I am always shocked when people go on trial for their life and they have some goomba there. I don't care who you have to sell, what do you have to sell, who you have to talk to. You get a good attorney. And the same thing with bankruptcy, anything. Get a good attorney. And my attorney was top of the line. She told me everything was going to happen. It happened exactly how she said. She was wonderful. Just wonderful. Had all the information there. They didn't ask her one question because she had already prepared me so well. There was nothing.
Right.
So, that's what's ridiculous is if your attorney doesn't know the answer to the questions, once again, something has gone terribly wrong.
So,
Oh,
the first hour was not spent answering questions from anybody in the peanut gallery or the creditors. The first hour was essentially questions by the trustee, and a lot of what was, I guess, determined was that much of what happened between the LLC TSR, the Dungeon Hobby Shop Museum, and the owner of these LLCs and his personal and, I guess, business uh, roles
Uh,
were verbal contracts. So essentially, it was a verbal contract between me, myself, and I
uh,
as to how. So it was like this. Oh yeah, I think one I believe one comment was when the trustee asked for documentation on a certain agreement. He goes, "Oh yeah, that's in the package." Well, I don't have it in my package. Does your attorney have it in his package? Oh well, no, because it was a verbal agreement. Well, then it was never in
oh my
in,
God.
in the package. So I mean, I
Oh,
am I am listen. I am not a lawyer. I don't play one on TV.
play one on
I've
TV.
dealt with
You didn't play
I've
one on TV? I thought you did.
no no,
Oh,
but I've
you
dealt
played a
with a
cop.
number.
Played a cop on TV. That was I forgot.
I've dealt with a number of attorneys, uh, both in my mostly in my position as a cop and as a supervisor and investigator in internal affairs. And the one thing that was always stressed to protect your ass was document, document, document.
Yes, yes. Have everything documented. That's
I mean
exactly,
that
and have
that I
it
mean that was true.
right there
That was
because
yeah,
you give them the paperwork and they go through it and ask questions. And they see something weird like, oh wait a second, it says here you have $5,000 in your bank account. You shouldn't have blah blah. Because what they're trying to do in a bankruptcy court, I mean, I don't know if everybody knows this, but they try to see if you have any assets. And my lawyer told me probably the same thing now as it was 20 years ago, is that they're looking for cash, jewelry, and property. That's what they're looking
mhm,
for. If you have any of that, they may ask you, hey, this stuff needs to go to your creditors. Now, if you owe credit card companies, they don't give a shit because they hate credit card companies. You could have lots of jewelry or whatever. They ain't going to ask you to sell and give the credit card companies. However, if you are Tom's, Mike's Bakery, and one of the people I owe is my cousin Bill, who loaned me 15 grand, they may say, I'm looking on your record and you have 5 cars. We're going to give one of your cars to your cousin because you owe him money and you have nothing to show. That's kind of the it's a little negotiation. And if you don't have anything, there's nothing, that's why you prepare all your paperwork
right.
because they want to see what you have. Now, even worse than that, though, is if you lie to them and you say, no, no, officer of the court, I don't have any transportation. I walk everywhere. Oh, that's weird because I'm looking on this paper now and it says you own 5 cars. What? Huh? That's kind of what we got here. People, they didn't even know what they were doing. The
Right.
lawyer doesn't know what the plaintiff's doing. I mean, they just didn't even know what was going on. Once again, that's never a good sign.
So I mean, personally, to me, um, again, as a former investigator in internal affairs, things that were always a red flag was if you were doing a case on a cop and then it's like, oh well, yeah, you did all your paperwork in that arrest except for your voucher. You did your voucher 2 days later. Why did you voucher property 2 days later? What was your intent with the property if you didn't do it at the time? And it seemed to me that there was a line of questioning that was questioning the I don't know the timeline as to when certain paperwork was filed.
Right.
There was a paperwork that was filed that was backdated 14 months. Um,
That's always good. Yeah, that's a good one.
So
Oh my God.
but now from my own personal point of view, um, I'm currently in a legal action, a civil suit
Oh,
and it was with two limited liability corporations and one, I will say, unnamed individual.
hmm.
Well, TSR and the other. LLC were under control of that single individual. But TSR now is no longer under control of its, I guess, owner or creator of the LLC. It is now under control of the trustee. And the trustee pretty much stated, I have no interest in pursuing anything against Mr. Stina and his whatever Lois is. Um, so it's just one less thing on my plate. But that had initially put a stay in my case, just like
Yeah.
it put a stay in the case with Watsy. And the stay was lifted last week. And the stay was lifted,
Which
and
means her trial can go forward.
my trial can go forward. And
Which
honestly, it's
is actually
to
good
my
news.
benefit.
You actually want this to happen, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Do I want it to wither on the vine? No, it doesn't do me any good. And I need to be victorious to get my investment back in this. So
Oh, yeah.
I need to move forward, and I'm happy it is. And I'm happy that it's moving forward, not necessarily based on anything that my attorneys did. Yes, they responded by letter over a month ago when opposing counsel submitted their letter that put an automatic stay on it. But then opposing counsel apparently decided that even though there's a stay, I'm still going to follow the calendar because I don't know. I guess I don't believe in my own stay. And then the following day, the judge ruled, you know what? The stay is bullshit. We're going to move on without the TSR aspect. So it was Monday. And by the way, I was waiting to ask one question. I only had one question for the bankruptcy court. And as a creditor, I was supposed to be able to ask that question and get an answer under oath. And the only question I had was, why did you add my mother to the civil litigation that you're having with me? But when we got to that point, the judge goes, and who else is left? This is after Michael Hovermail and after Don Samora. Wizards of the Coast said, no questions. I'm just happy to be here, listening into everything. You know, I was like, pick me, Mr. Cotter, pick me. And it's like, oh, we have nobody else here who's a creditor because Mr. Stina is no longer a creditor. I went,
Oh,
yay! I was like a little bit of a letdown.
well, can I ask you a personal question? I don't know if you can answer. What does this mean for you? Good news. Good news.
No, it means that my case moves forward. It means that any allegations made by TSR are probably no longer part of my case because TSR is no longer litigating it.
There's a chance they could kick your case?
Not based on this, as far as I know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know.
All right. Well, I hope that's what might happen. I mean, I don't know, but that'd be great. That would be great if they just mooted it and said, okay, yeah, this is gonna happen.
So now here's something interesting that came up in the testimony, which I don't know if it's been covered elsewhere, but I thought it was interesting. So, and the timeline, I'm sure people are working on it, but TSR was initially formed in Wisconsin, and then it was formed as a foreign entity or a foreign corporation, which just means out of state, in North Carolina as pretty much part of TSR in Wisconsin. However, and this is, I actually looked it up, and the testimony by the person in charge of these companies was that, I formed one before knowing how to do it, so then it was formed by my lawyer. But both of these, TSR LLC and TSR Games, were formed on the same day in North Carolina. So
Mhm.
they were filed on the exact same day with within, I'm guessing, minutes of each other. I think technically the TSR LLC has a lower number assigned by the state, so I'm going to guess it was first, but it might just be how the paperwork got shuffled. But they were both formed on the same day, and as such, I think it's kind of hard to imagine me. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I don't do this for a living. How you could form two LLCs with this nearly the same name, and they're both active. So the one is active and it is in bankruptcy, TSR LLC, but TSR Games is not part of the bankruptcy.
Oof.
So just little bit, and and a little bit of information for everybody who was like, "What happened to all these dungeon crawl board games that are owned by TSR, but now have OSR Games label slapped on them?" According to testimony, they were never actually owned by TSR. TSR was a licensee, or apparently TSR got paid $1 a game for the use of the TSR logo on what was published, but the games themselves were owned by the Dungeon Hobby Shop Museum, if I got the testimony right.
Uh-huh.
So they were never part of TSR, and the contract between TSR and the Dungeon Hobby Shop was to pay $1 per box. Now, by the way, there was $1,000 rent at two different locations, $2,000 a month for office space over the course of like 14 months. But they were only making $1 a game. That is, Mike, do you want to hazard a guess at the type of contract that was?
Verbal.
You know
Was
what?
it a verbal contract?
It was a verbal contract between the actually at one in one case with Tales for Tots or My Daddy's Pizza or something like that. Whenever the or maybe it was Goblins. One of the other properties was owned by copyright by the individual in question directly, and they also had uh, a verbal contract to pay TSR $1 for every copy sold. I'm not sure if that $1, by the way, was as something was sold, or hey, you brought in 1,000 games. Here's $1,000, and we're good. I don't know how that wasn't really explained, and I really couldn't. It was hard to follow. I've never. I've watched attorneys take notes, but like I had to re-listen. Like I took notes. I mean,
Yeah.
I took pages and pages and pages and pages and pages of notes during this hearing, and then I re-listened to it earlier today, and I got about almost an hour into it before the ACs popped the circuit breaker, and then that also turned off my computer and I had to figure all that shit out. But I I have never seen myself take so many notes, and then as I'm re-listening, realize how much I missed because and there was documentation that was asked for numerous times, or numerous pieces of documentation, which was not available at the hearing.
Mm.
So it was
Unbelievable. Like I said, I was in the chat. If this was like L.A. Law or one of those law shows, and they try to throw this out there, people would turn off their TV laughing, going, "That's the dumbest thing I've ever seen." Nobody would ever go to court that unprepared. That this is just a stupid story.
so, yeah.
Say earlier, this I would say Shakespearean tragedy, but it doesn't rise to the level of Shakespeare. But you had this person who seemed to be doing okay and was in a position to make a lot of money, because we've speculated before if said human being had just said, okay, we're going to publish some old school type modules. We're going to slap the TSR logo on it. We're going to have Ernie throw his name on there somewhere, like he consulted it or edited or wrote it. They'd have done okay. I think they would have sold they could have sold a couple thousand modules without too much trouble. And instead, fast forward 2.5, 3 years, and the feds are interested in this person for really bad stuff, and they didn't make a lot of money off of modules, and they don't have anything. And yeah, this is the Shakespearean tragedy where somebody that had it all. I mean, so all Shakespearean heroes had a fatal flaw. I can't remember any that had the fatal flaw of stupidity. I mean, Macbeth. I mean, some of them were stupid. Like Macbeth and stuff, trusting the wrong lady. But yeah, mostly it was hubris or ego. Like King Lear, his fatal flaw was ego. I mean, I don't recall any Shakespearean hero that was just plain damn dumb. That was so dumb they just ruined everything. That Shakespearean audiences wouldn't have liked that. They would have thought that was just well, you just made him dumb. Well, I don't get that.
Right.
I mean, he needs to have a fatal flaw. He needs to be greedy, or he needs to be ego or lust or something. Well, he's just stupid. I mean, that's
everybody's stupid.
Yeah,
I mean,
we're stupid. We're the peons here watching this for pennies. We're dumb. I mean, everybody's dumb. It doesn't make any sense.
So Tom says when you listen again, it's amazing how many times the unnamed individual interrupts everyone, even after the trustee tells him to wait till he's done.
In court, they always love that. Yeah.
Now, I mean, part of it can be there's a built-in delay with Zoom of like, I don't know, a quarter second or a half second. But so after the trustee finished asking his questions, and my impression was the trustee had more questions, but I think that he was exhausted.
He was worn out. He's like, oh my God,
yeah.
bored of this.
So he went to Michael Hovermail, and Michael Hovermail asked questions. Michael, by the way, a few days or a week or two prior, put in a wage complaint in this case in the state to claim that he wasn't paid for nearly $60,000 in wages.
Right.
And if you haven't been paid, definitely you should get paid. So Michael Hovermail's questions were pretty much about, do you remember what you said in an IM to me in 2021 when you said I was hired? And it's like, yeah. I said, you were hired. Yeah. But then it was like, oh, do you remember what you said in this conversation? And I was declared, I don't know, products manager and PR manager. And the answers were from the individual in question, surprisingly, calm, considering the built-in accusations built there. And we're like, yeah, well, you called yourself whatever you called yourself. I can prove that you were a volunteer in court, and I'll see you in court. And I didn't yell it. Give him a lot of credit. He was firm and confident in his answers. And then Don Samara came up with the Tower Games, and Don asked questions. Don actually got to do a little show and tell, pulling up paperwork with Don's alleged signature on it. And the individual in question did not respond to it very well. And the answer was essentially, it's irrelevant because you're going to be in jail and I'll see you in jail. And that led to an admonishment by the trustee. Yeah.
By the way, just to preview, you, Don, and Tommy will be doing a show Friday. and you're going to
Yes.
talk a little bit more about this too. So if you enjoy our talk now, tune in Friday because they'll have some. I mean, Tom has had some great videos on this. Don is very inside what's going on here, so it should be a really good show. That's going to be on Tom's channel, right? Tommy's channel.
Tom's channel, 6 p.m. Friday. Before I jump in to the random party generator with special guest Douglas Cole, Doug is going to be running an Ask Me Anything, an AMA, which when I mentioned to the guys in the on the random party generator, hey, Doug wants to join us. He wants to run an AMA. It's like, what's an AMA? And somebody pops up, American Movie Association, idiot. And I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, dude.
Well,
They're
it looks
so
like
out of touch.
so from what Tom was saying that it looks like Havermail is kind of, I don't want to say a plan, but he threw some softballs to get.
He threw some. Well, okay, so again, I'm going to throw something out there. Again, I spent my last 12 years in internal affairs as a supervisor, mostly supervising some minor investigations here or there, some more major ones here, part of. But a lot of times you find that certain answers are given to set up authority for later answers. And usually it's pretty obvious. Usually it's stuff that, like, well, I never even cared about this. So why
right? It's rehearsed like, oh, yeah, I remember that day exactly 5.5 years ago when you said that,
right.
blah, blah, blah.
So, I mean, again, that's just my spidey sense. I could be wrong.
That's just speculation.
So, I mean, okay, so according to Tom, his only reason being there as a creditor is to appear as if he's against LaNasa and legitimize the lie about the NDA statement. Now, what Tom is talking about here is when the NDA statement was presented, the individual in question, the person behind TSR, said that Hovermail erased all the data and only Hovermail has records of the NDAs. So to me, that meant, oh, well, you've established an antagonistic relationship with a hostile witness, and now that hostile witness is the only one that can confirm. So that, again, could be 6 of one, a half dozen of the other. Now, if you're going to ask, well, why do we who were friends with Michael suspect that he may have gone to the dark side? Well, we already saw that happen with Vince Florio. I mean, that happened over a year ago with Vince. And there are things that made me suspicious of Vince before that, to the point where I was feeding Vince totally false and bogus information to see if it would get back. And it did. And when you know where the source is coming from, then you know that your source is compromised. Right. That, by the way, it's one of the first things they teach you when dealing with sources, when dealing with somebody of questionable motivation, is you've got to test them and see how truthful they are going to be, or how if the persona, if their actions that they are claiming are legit. And I think human nature, you like to believe people are who they present themselves as, and you want to believe in the redemption of the human soul. You want to believe that people who may have done poor acts can, I don't know, become redeemed. Some can. All right, and then and the general, as a human, you want to believe that. You want to take it at face value, and I am thankful that my training makes me a bit of a cynic when it comes to some of this shit. And suffice to say, things came back, and and when you know your subject, when you know your target, you know what will be like there's like, oh, throw this out there, and if they hear this, you know the bells will start ringing. So
Yeah.
the bells were rung, and now does it mean that Michael's motivations? Again, I don't know what his motivations are. Maybe he just happens to like this individual.
I still
Maybe
don't. Honestly, I still can't even fathom why Vince threw him with this guy. So I mean, that just blows my mind. Like,
Vince is easy. Vince is easy. Vince felt and probably still feels rejected by the OSR, rejected by the RPG community at large, rejected in part because of his loud political statements and leanings. Felt betrayed, and also in the case of Vince, Vince needs almost immediate validation.
mhm,
He got validation for his mazes and perils. He won an Emmy, and once it was the worst thing that could have happened to Vince was winning that Emmy,
mhm,
because once he won the Emmy for something that he didn't give a shit about, and trust me, he didn't. He was mostly driven to do his podcast or manage his podcast empire.
mhm,
He wanted an Emmy for one of the podcasts that he was working on, which is
mhm.
why when I podcasted with Vince, there were numerous podcasts that he ghosted after 3 or 4 episodes because they weren't getting 1,000 subscribers or 1,000 viewers or whatever it was, because he needed that validation. That is what he needed. And by being part of the story, and we all heard the story, TSR is back. TSR is this. TSR is that. TSR, the original producers of D&D. If you believe the hype, which Michael Hovermill certainly did when he joined TSR, if
Mhm.
you believe the hype, then it becomes nearly religious, I would say, to some extent. So I would say that with Vince, it's, and I could be wrong. Vince can feel free to correct me. It's a rejection by the community of old school gamers and them finding him toxic, and uh, the idea that being part of this new company, as it was going to be promising so much, was
Yeah.
going to put him in a position of influence and authority, and he'll be the face. And I think the final pin in all that was me,
Mhm.
because I came along and started doing podcasts and videos, and suddenly I had more subscribers than Vince, and then it was like it's all Tenkar's fault.
Mhm.
Oh, I could be wrong, but I don't know.
So it boils down in that case to jealousy and just and ego. But yeah, so yeah, so I don't. Yeah,
I,
it's
how,
it's
you
that
know,
that'll screw things over definitely.
yeah. Uh, and yes, sorry, yes, Tom. We will be discussing the secret cabal on Friday. Um, and oh yeah, and a blow up in the live stream 2 weeks ago. Yes, when the random party generator had Michael Hovermail making these accusations.
Uh-oh, I didn't hear see that.
Oh yeah, he was vague booking. He was vague booking that people don't give him proper credit. He works on projects and he doesn't get credit and he doesn't get paid, but that's okay. He'll come out ahead in the all this stuff,
Yeah.
and it wasn't a pretty sight. And I remained out of the conversation. Although I will say that, like, Joe was like on the private chat, we're going, "What the fuck is this guy having a mental breakdown?" I'm like, I don't know.
Well, invest heavily in something that turns out to be snake oil. Sometimes you double down, because you're like, you don't want to admit you got
Yeah,
screwed and you got you got taken. You know.
Don, here's the thing when it comes to podcasts or vidcasts or whatever. You enter your own. So you have to enter your videos, and you enter your video. You enter the best one you think of your series. I did it 1 year, then I realized why. Um, and then you're supposed to like go, oh, and if I win, what's the song I want them to play as I or my stand-in walks up to get the award? Of course, I wanted "Symphony of Gold" because classic song from a western.
Yeah.
But I have no idea what Vince did. But as far as I understand, for years Vince was entering probably every uh, cast he was on. Now, do some of these nominees, when you look at the list for the Emmys, do some of them you look at and you go, "Who the fuck?" I
Yeah.
mean, they are some really deep picks. And if you look at the stuff on drive through, there were picks that didn't even get silver in sales, which means they hadn't even made 200 or 250
Mhm.
sales on drive through, and they're only digital products. Yet apparently they are so amazing. And in a case of a number of the judges, right, getting them onto that list. Or it could
Wow.
also be, or well, it could also be five judges, and everybody picked their own products, so you get five wacky products in that category. So it is,
We know. Well, we at this point we know the shit show at the Emmys are anyway. So you know that they can be gamed and they can be gamed. They've been gamed before.
right. So again, with Donnie, is honor and integrity matter. There's a, you know, there's a bond in blood, right? When you take the same hits, and by the way, I'll add a little observation, behind the scenes observation, that only one individual is never harassed in anonymous emails. And by the way, these anonymous emails mostly go to Don, and a number of them go to Tom. I haven't gotten one in a while. I don't feel bad, but somebody was always left off the anonymous. They'd spew shit to Don on a Don email and talk about Tenkar, again, all anonymously, and talk about Tom and his shrew of a wife. Nothing about Michael. Nothing ever about Michael's son, who was
Sure.
who was being slammed when Michael and Logan initially left TSR.
Right.
They were being slammed publicly and cited publicly. So I don't know.
Hmm.
You know,
Suspicious, but
suspicious. And, I'm sure that Michael would dare to disagree, and that's certainly. I just, you get to the point where you're like, all right, well, if you know who you can trust, and if you have your doubts about somebody else's trust, you got to cut those that you can't trust.
sure.
You know,
Yeah, it sounds suspicious, and that's too bad that people feel like, this ship's going down. It's like saying, I really want to get on the Titanic right now, but it just hit the iceberg, sir. Oh well, you never know. There's no point. You might as well sail away from the Titanic at this point. There's no really point in getting on. It's already going to the bottom, but I don't
right?
know.
And listen, what do they say? The rats always flee a sinking ship even before it starts to sink,
Uh,
right? That's because they haven't. It's not because they're rats and they're evil and bad. No, it's because they have an innate survival instinct.
yeah,
Okay, and their little spidey sense goes off, and unlike humans, where we go, oh, my spidey sense, it's telling me, but my heart tells me that I can't believe that. Dad, so and so would never do that to me. The rat goes, well, fuck this shit. I'm gone. They don't wait. They don't question themselves. They just
right.
leave. You know. So I mean, that's to me is, and it's funny because remember, I did 12 years in internal affairs. We dealt with rats. We were called the rat squad.
Right.
Right? But a lot of times, how did you find out corruption? We found out corruption because somebody who saw it and maybe even peripherally part of it realized, oh shit, I'm the weak link. I'm gonna get caught. I better turn myself in
I
and
gotta
get
cut
a
a deal.
deal.
I gotta cut a deal. Yeah.
You know. So, but that was Monday's excitement. Um, like I said, it was a bit of a letdown not to be able to ask my question, but I was okay with that. Hearing depositions that D word is going to come up in this uh, in this case with TSR. Um, Depositions aren't cheap. You got to pay your attorney by the hour, unless you're willing to do it without an attorney by your side. I don't know. Nobody to object when questions are asked. Probably not the wisest thing, but yeah. So I don't know.
Hmm.
It looks to me, by the way, that bankruptcy court moves much quicker than any other court I've ever seen. I
That's
mean,
cool.
we always refer to it as like court time. It's like, oh, you're gonna be you got a court appearance today? I was like, yeah, I got to be at court at 8 o'clock in the morning. All right, so we'll probably see you about 6 p.m. And, and you're gonna spend like 10 minutes of whatever you're doing before they tell you you're not needed, and then they say
Okay.
that's just the way. But court time also meant a case could last. A criminal case, you could get called down multiple times over the course of months as it slowly makes its way through different parts of the court system. And I'm seeing that personally with the civil court system. It doesn't move very quickly, but when the trustee in this case requested from the judge, I guess last Wednesday, I think it was, on
Mhm.
Wednesday requested, uh, hey, I'd like to hire a law firm to investigate this bankruptcy filing. And the law firm he wanted to hire was his own because nepotism is always good. But
All right.
he wants to get paid for the time he has to put into look at this. You know,
Internet.
um, it was approved like 18 hours later.
Oh boy, that's
Okay.
quick.
Yeah, I
That's
mean, I don't see courts working that fast usually.
yeah.
That's not court time. That's oh, I don't know.
So somebody knows. Somebody might have had suspicion something was going on. Let's get this going right. There's no point in debating this. Let's get this rolling.
Yeah, it's like yeah. Now, the thing is, we are talking about a situation that's been going on in this community for what 2 years, a
Uh
little bit longer. Um, this community in general has been, I am sure, making their own collection of TSR-isms or whatever. So it's not like this trustee got this uh, bankruptcy case and it was like, oh, and I've got no information. I am quite sure the moment that they were
huh.
attached to this,
Totally perplexed by this situation. Yeah.
it was. I'm sure the reaction was like, what the fuck? I've got all these emails. I've got people calling my phone. Uh, uh, Please, somebody stop. He must have known pretty early on that this was going to be a special case. Tom says nepotism. He specifically named his son and his firm. Well,
Okay.
keep it in the family, man. Keep it in the family.
Oh boy.
The nice thing is that the process is moving forward. You can lie, yes. However, these men and women do this every day. You cannot fool them. They will dig and they will find it all. I mean, honestly, talking about lies, um, it doesn't take a special maybe takes a special skill to detect lies. You got to be somebody who can read people. If
Yes.
you can read people, and I'm not going to say you're going to catch every lie, but if you have a subject and your subject is building a lie upon a lie, you will catch them in that really quickly because they can't help themselves. It is, and they will trip themselves up. I have seen it. I experienced it. I got to watch it because even when I was in an administrative position, a lot of times when our Group One investigators, Group One was those that investigated like the Untouchables, Captains and Above, political incidents. Um, I got to sit in on those interviews, those hearings, because they cannot be conducted under the authority of the detective. You need a
Yeah.
supervisor. So I
Right.
got to go and take my golf shirt off, put down my button-down shirt, put on a tie, put on a blazer, and then swear in the hearing, and then just sit back and enjoy and watch the show. And that was actually good because I wasn't invested in the answers. I was invested in how the answers were being made.
Right. Right.
So, and honestly, um, there is an unwritten rule, or it might be a written down rule in many law firms. You don't ask questions that you don't already know the answer to.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
So if you're being answered questions and you are looking to mislead, perchance, um, they already know the answers to those questions. Those questions are being the only questions they might not have the answers to already are when your answers don't match up to their questions and the answers they expected. And now they have follow ups that are going down a wholly different path, and that's
Yeah.
because you derailed the questioning, and likely because you're just getting yourself deeper into poop. So
Once again, that's why, in most cases, if you see stuff go to trial, the lawyer has rehearsed his client significantly enough that you don't have, I don't know where this is or what's going on with this or where that is. I mean, you don't have those because they've talked about it enough. Like, okay, here's what they're going to ask. They're going to ask this, this, and this, and here's what we have. And if this case, it looks bad because it looks like they're just basically making up stuff at that point because they don't have an answer. They don't have a correct answer, so they're just
yeah,
going to throw stuff. Oh, I don't know. I mean, maybe I paid for it with a credit card. Maybe I paid cash. Maybe I traded some beads for this thing. I mean, I don't know how I paid for it.
all right.
Yeah,
So
that's
Mike, I'm going to ask you a hypothetical. If if you bought a property, like a piece of land, okay,
uh,
for I don't know, probably around $250,000, would you remember how you paid for it?
I remember how I paid for McDonald's 2 weeks ago. I only pay for anything with cash or I use my card, and I use the same card so I can keep all my records straight. So yes, I know how I pay for everything, and I save my receipts too, like anybody should. That's dumb to think that you and yeah, particularly in a something that expensive. Of course, you know how you paid for it.
Because I would think if you bought property in cash, you have no mortgage, so you're not paying on it any further, and then you don't have. And if you got a mortgage on it, you're writing that check every month. You kind of remember, oh yeah, I'm still paying for this.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, okay, so hyper, you know, that's a question that may likely have come up, and and the answer was yes. Tom brings up the Dungeon Hobby Shop word mark. So the Dungeon Hobby Shop trademark for those words were mistakenly assigned to TSR LLC. This is the testimony. and they were corrected this spring to be backdated 14 months because nobody realized that they had a uh, uh, yeah, no. Uh, Michelle, life is like a D20. There's a one in every die. Sometimes when a discerning person is inundated with lies, some still get through because they just didn't roll high that day. Yeah, you know, it's like the person that's like when you have your you. Oh my god, I just rolled 3 ones in a row. Nobody saw that last roll. I'm just gonna scoop it, and I never rolled.
Roll and scoop real quick here. Yeah.
Uh, Tom, the assertion that the Dungeon Hobby Shop mark was mistakenly assigned to TSR and the trustee, and what the trustee said tells me about the mistake. The answer boiled down to it was a mistake. Yeah, that's pretty much. I mean, let's be honest. This whole thing is a mistake. I mean,
In more ways than one, yes.
and
By
yes, Mike
the way,
is
yeah,
still in a hotel with bad internet.
I'm at the hotel, and yeah, but I have something to keep me company, and I've had. So let me tell you one good thing that's happened this week is my grandson is in town before he gets stationed in Idaho. He's got about 2 weeks here, and he's been staying with me, so it's awesome, man. He rolls in about 10 o'clock after getting back from his girlfriend's house, and we batch it up for 2 or 3 hours, and so Shell will love this. For the last few nights, we've been watching scary uh, camping stories on the YouTube channel, and he loves them now. He loves them because he's going to Idaho, and he wants to go camping. Of course, after about I don't know 4 or 5 videos about scary camping stories, he's not sure if he ever wants to go camping in Idaho now. But yeah, I tell you what, and if you have kids or grandkids, you know how this is. You only have a limited time with them before they basically turn to grown-ups. And once they're grown-ups, then they've got families and they've got wives, they got jobs, and they just don't see you that much. They just, they're busy. And so when you have that time together, you just spend as much time with you can with them. I mean, you spend as much time as you can with them because you're never going to get that time back. It's just never going to come back. So
Yeah,
yeah, I've been having a great week, man. We hang out, eat bad food, get up and have breakfast, work out, do whatever, just chill. And he goes and does he has to do a job before he gets stationed, so he actually has to get dressed up in his uniform and go to a recruiting base over here nearby and hang out and do stuff for them all day, then come back. And it's great, man. It's been awesome. It's been awesome hanging out with my grandson. So because after this, he's going off to the real world. I probably won't see him a whole bunch.
yeah.
Unless,
They'll
I
treat him.
don't know.
They'll treat him
I
well.
guess I
Just
can
like
visit him.
the airport.
Idaho's it's a 3-day trip, but I may make it one of these days. So
There you go.
yes, I had better quality true believers than this guy. Like I said, I just don't get it. He must have a high charisma because I don't understand why some of the people that I thought were somewhat intelligent would be like, yeah, I'm going to hang on to this. I'm going to hang out here for a while. I mean, I guess if he had something over on you, I don't know. Maybe he's got pictures. He had pictures, or I don't know. It doesn't make any sense.
No. Uh, well, all right. So I can hypothesize. All right. And it's like, oh, hey, Tenkar hypothesizes it gets dangerous. Um, when uh, when Michael and his son left TSR, it was publicly stated or shared that Michael's son is the one that wiped the servers clean and stole all the information.
I remember this accusation. Yes.
Remember those accusations? So now, just hypothetically, what would you do to protect your kid?
Sure.
I don't
You
know.
do almost anything, yes.
So I mean, again, it's hypothetical, and it doesn't uh, make shit right, but it gives you a little insight. So again, I remember Michael being proud of Logan for pulling that shit, but and Logan being referred to by a derogatory term
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Oh yeah.
from
Yeah.
those, you know, and I don't know. We
Yeah.
I guess we'll find out over the next few weeks. You know, I do know that Michael's been working with what are those idiots? The ones that believed all the TSR stories when they came out. Uh, Clownfish. He's working
Oh,
with Clownfish.
yeah, those guys are. Oh God, yeah.
So
That, that,
hey,
that, that that's what'd you call it? That's the
Clownfish.
hype, but hype. That's they're out basically they're outrage radio or outrage YouTube. They don't know what they're talking about. They get all crazy and yell and scream, and then they don't talk about it again for another 4 or 5 months. Everything they do is for ratings. Everything they do is to push the rating thing up. And so they talk about things they don't have any clue about, and they hype it up, and oh my god, they use buzzwords and this and that, and then they promptly don't refer to it again for months and months. So yeah, that's
No.
they're the worst type of journalist you could ever imagine. If you even call it journalism, they're horrible. They're horrible. Yes, they're horrible. They have no fucking.
Um. Uh, uh, Tammy, I am going to have to disagree with you because everybody I've spoken to who has met the individual in question in person has said that they are quite likable. So, uh, you know, does it?
Well, yeah, you can go a long way with the all shucks good old boy stuff. He seems like he'd be good at that. Like, hey, I'm just one of you, and I'm just a regular person, and boy, this world sucks, doesn't it? With all these people doing these crazy things, and yeah, I can see where he'd be charismatic to certain segment of the population.
Yeah.
And I'm
So
here to, and he's got, and I'm here to fix things and make it better, man.
there you go.
Mhm.
So Don, all right. See, Friday, folks, there'll be less of me. There'll be more of Don. There'll be more of Tom. I'll just be happily along for the ride, throwing out a little spice here and there, just a little bit of spice.
Yeah, we're just. I mean, look, this is just Eric and I speculating on all this. We're not. We don't. We're just throwing our opinions out.
Right.
This is absolute opinions right here. We're not. We don't know.
Well, right. I can make informed observations based upon my life experiences and what I've observed.
Oh
But
yeah.
it doesn't make it true. I mean, for all I know, hey, Michael could be pure as the driven snow, 99.4% ivory soap or whatever the percentage on ivory soap is. I could certainly be wrong. Um, my opinion, I don't expect I am, but I could be. So, and actually, I'd be happy if I was. If you
Mhm.
want to believe the best in people, but I am not in a position to believe the best in certain people, and I haven't been in this case for a while. So, and Tammy, yes, that wormy sliminess. I understand where you're coming from. I've heard that too, but it seems to be more an internet thing.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like that, like no respect, the Rodney Dangerfield. So everybody wants respect.
There's a segment of the population that get off on this one guy against the system, man. He's just one guy and he's fighting the system. And so you have that aspect too, where some people like to root for the underdog, like, hey, he's like the underdog, man.
Yeah,
And of course, I don't see if you paid halfway attention to any of this. I don't understand why you would think that anymore. But look, I met, and I think I told the story before. I know somebody that went and bought Giant Lands because all they knew was that Jim Ward had something to do with it. And they heard it was OSR. It's not, and they
nope.
went and bought it. And then they were so disappointed when they looked at that thing and said, "Oh my God, this thing's garbage. It's terrible." And because they didn't know though, they just heard that Jim Ward was doing something, and okay, I'm going to support Jim Ward. So yeah, there's certain people that just say, hey, these guys are doing old school stuff, and they're TS. I knew people that I got emails from people, Eric, that said, "Hey, did you hear the TSR's back?" And I had to
Yep.
explain the whole thing to him. I go, "No, they're not. They're not back. This is a guy that bought the trademark, or whatever, and he's saying he's TSR, but he's not." Oh man, I thought TSR was back. I was so excited. So yeah, there's that whole aspect too, that people just don't. Some people just don't know.
Well, now I have uh, a question, or if you go to the Wayback Machine, you can, which I did. I can find the original uh, announcement, the PR release of announcing TSR with Ernie as executive vice president and Duck as, I don't know what position. Duck had some office position. Don
Right.
Hart was operations vice vice principal, president, whatever. But as far as I can tell, these positions, although announced in a PR statement, never actually existed. So it's a
Right.
little perplexing. I'm wondering, and I'm wondering, Ernie's the one that announced that the museum is going to be for sale. And they want to sell it to a not for profit. Figure that one out.
Yeah. I mean, nobody knew. Look, this looked like I said before, this looked like a moneymaker at first, right? I mean,
Yeah.
this is a no-brainer. You have the TSR name, you issue a statement that we love TSR back in the day, and we have greatest respect for all the creators, and we're going to put out some old school stuff there, and then
It's going to be a homage. A
you come out
homage
with
to the
yeah,
original.
you stick Ernie's name on the cover, you get Jeff D or somebody to do the cover. You make just I don't know, just your generic 30-room adventure,
Yeah.
and it says TSR on the front cover. Everybody buys that. That's a no brainer. And if you fuck that up, good lord. I mean, how do you fuck that up? That is a no brainer.
Uh,
Yeah. And
uh,
that there you go. And have one you put Jeff Leeson's name on. I mean, I don't know what's Mike Carr doing nowadays. Not much. Throw his name on one of them. To have some old school guys do the cover. Like I said, they don't have to even be good. People just buy stuff, and because of the
yeah.
nostalgia, right? Have blue maps in it like the old days. Call it
Oh,
something like
detachable cover. Oh my God. Yeah.
Attack of the Cloud Giant King or something. I mean, I don't know. Call it something generic, and boom, then you're going to sell hundreds of copies. I don't know how you fuck that up. I don't understand how you fuck that up. Here's money. You're going to print money, but no, we're going to screw this up somehow.
Well, listen, we all know people that have to attempt the shortcut,
Yeah.
even when there is a valid path forward that is profitable.
Right.
I can make more in a tenth the time if only this works. That's doesn't
Yeah.
always work that way.
No. No,
So
it does not. And it can, I mean, it comes down to greed, right? I mean, it's just you're greedy. You're, you know, because the statements from this individual that were that, hey, if I do this, I can hold Watsy hostage for millions of dollars, and so yeah, you get greedy because instead of making thousands of dollars, you think you're going to make millions of dollars now. Well, hell,
right. And honestly, I think if a company like TSR had put its efforts into making product with
yep,
that those trademarks, with that nostalgia, um, with I don't know competent authors. You don't need amazing authors. Duck Leeson or
no, it doesn't have to be. We already said it doesn't have to be great. It just has to have
no.
the look and the feel of an old school adventure. That's all it had to do.
Yep.
Unbelievable, unbelievable.
but nothing. So,
You have to be a chimpanzee to screw that up, and well, there we go.
Don's gonna be dropping shots. Oh, screenshots. Never
Oh,
mind.
uh-oh.
I thought they were gonna be like Jello shots, uh, on Friday. So now again, folks, just so you know your Friday schedule, set yourself
Oh,
up at
yes.
home in front of your TV with your dinner, 6 o'clock Eastern. Have at it, and then 8 o'clock, you get to see the exhausted Tenkar who's already been on for like 60 minutes, 90 minutes.
He's
Do
already
another,
put an hour in. He's going to put another 2 hours in.
at least 2 hours with these fuckers. Sorry, man,
Oh
but
boy.
they did not end. So, well,
I'm tuning in for
John,
this. This sounds awesome. I'll still be at the hotel. I'll be at the hotel, and I'll kick back. I'll throw a little Maker's Mark in the drink and kick back for 3 hours of Tenkar and the boys.
there you go.
By the way,
John,
I heard. By the way,
what?
Glenn called me today. Our buddy Glenn. He was trying to get a room for North Texas. We released the rooms today, so
Uh-huh.
we're already doing really well. We've had quite a few room nights, so we're doing excellent.
Okay.
But yeah,
I got-
Glenn needed a little help because Glenn.
Yeah.
Sometimes he can't figure stuff out. No, I'm just kidding. I'm messing with it. He just wanted to know if he could call the place directly, which I guess you can.
Should be able to.
Yeah, you should be able to.
Yeah. John, there are always people who put more effort in doing something incorrectly than it would take to do whatever it is the proper way.
I don't
Any
understand those
supervisor
people.
knows.
But I know some. I know some of those people. I don't understand it, but I know them. Yes.
I was a supervisor in the NYPD for my last 14 years. Believe me, I've seen it. I've done it.
Why are you putting so much effort? Yeah, you want to ask them, why you put so much effort into doing this crappy when you could put the effort into doing it right? It's not that much more effort, and you could
No.
do 10 times better. It doesn't make. Yeah, I have known people exactly like that. It blows your mind. Absolutely blows your mind. But yes,
Thank
yeah,
you, John.
they are out there and they exist.
So,
Don't get it.
so Mike, I don't think there's any Watsy stupids this week. I don't think they did anything.
They're letting the stupid roll in court this week. So yeah, Watsy is pretty. So here's the funny thing about Watsy, Eric, is that they drop off our radar sometimes. We're like, oh, cool. That they drop off our radar. Maybe somebody is in charge now that knows what they're doing, and so we're like, oh yeah, this is cool. 3 weeks later, what happens? 3 weeks later.
Yeah, they prove us wrong.
They screw the pooch so hard the pooch explodes, and you're like, oh my god, what happened? I mean, what you were okay, you were in the clear. What huh? Why did you do this thing? So even though they don't appear the last couple weeks, it appears like they're laying low. Look, Gen Con's next week, or is it this? No, it's this weekend, right? This weekend. Next weekend.
Last year was this weekend. It might.
I gotta look it up.
I gotta look it up too.
Damn, I can't believe it. August the 3rd through August the 6th. Next weekend.
All right, next weekend.
Next weekend, Gen Con. Maybe they'll do something really stupid at Gen Con, and then we'll just like, oh my god, Gen Con. What were they thinking?
Running naked through the halls.
That would be an improvement over some of the stuff they've done. That wouldn't be too bad. That would be. I could thumbs up that.
There you go. Well, so folks, you're going to get extra live streams on Friday, so we're going to cut this one a little short.
I'm running out of power for my phone too, so probably this will be unfortunately one of our shorter. We're just setting you up for Friday night here. We're setting you up for Friday night.
Tastes great, less filling. We're trying to make sure you all get that. I'll make sure I'll add a link probably later on tonight as a pinned comment to this live stream to tell you where to go on Friday, not to hell. Where to go Friday at 6 p.m.
James Bond can go there as far as I'm concerned.
Leave my James alone. So,
by the way,
folks,
so next few weeks we've got on tap. Ben Burns is going to be a special guest in August. Did I tell you I talked to Crystal Mazur? So she has agreed to come on, and she's way too classy for our show, but she still agreed to come on, but not till September. She's got a very busy August, so we'll get Crystal and shoot. So I did not know she worked in this game called Never Going Home. It's a World War One horror game. It looks awesome. Flew completely under my radar, and I saw it. I was like, I can't believe I never knew this game existed. It was a Kickstarter. So she's worked on that. Some other things. She's going to come talk about it. Who is that? There's another guy that said, "Yeah, I'll be on their show." Okay, so I don't know. I forgot, but we've got 3 or 4 guests coming up here in the next few weeks. So Ben Burns, I believe, has a Kickstarter coming up. I don't know what system it's for, but next couple of weeks he has a Kickstarter. Oh, I told Tom Wilson. Tom Wilson's got ShireCon coming up in September. We're going to have him on in August to talk about ShireCon. And Tom's always awesome. He's the hardest working man in games. He is. Well, and maybe Tom and I will talk about the project we have. Tom and I are going to work. Yep. It's going to be cool.
Sexy.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Look at that. See that? Folks, aren't you glad you joined in?
Hear all my previews for not this show, but for the shows to come.
And listen, like, subscribe. Subscribe is very helpful.
Yes.
And with the live streams,
break that 3,000. We want to break the 3,000 mark. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Get
the
us
only
over.
way you can comment during our live streams is to be a subscriber. The primary reason for that is that we weren't doing that, and then all these sex chat bots kept on gaming links. So
and what sucked, a lot of those links didn't work because I checked them just to be safe.
Yeah, of course. What do you expect? Come on.
Well, I had to check those links to see what was up.
It's just supposed to frustrate you, not actually entice you. Just frustrate.
No, I was just doing that. Oh no, I was doing that for
research,
educational purposes. Yes, only
educational purposes only. Folks, as always, be safe, be well. God bless. Roll those dice, roll them well. Tomorrow night, if you're on the Tenkar Tavern Discord, 9 p.m., we do a hangout. From 9 to 11. Last week I was in the poke and I was crashed out at 10. I'm sorry. I apologize. But all right, folks.
Later, everybody. Thanks for commenting. We love you.
Bye-bye.